guys, Mimi G here with another sew along. Today we're going to be working on one of my new fall patterns, 8750, View AB, the top. Now if you're new to sewing, you might want to check out my online sewing school, sewacademy.com, where we teach in-depth online sewing lessons. Now if you just need a refresher course, you can visit the Sewing Basics video linked in the description box below. Watch that, then come back and sew along with me. Okay, so we're going to start with pattern 8750 as mentioned. We're going to start with the top. Now we're going to do the V-neck versus the turtleneck. The turtleneck is a little simpler. In the back of the pattern envelope, remember that there are a list of fabric suggestions. This pattern was designed for stretch knits, where you're going to be using a double knit for the pants and a jersey knit for the top. Let's go over the pattern pieces that you're going to need. You're going to need pattern piece number 7, which is the front yoke. You're going to cut 1. You're going to cut pattern piece number 8, which is our neck band, and you're also going to cut 1. You're going to cut out pattern piece number 6, which is the front of our top, and you're going to cut out 1. You're going to cut out pattern piece number 3, which is our back. You're going to cut 1 on the fold. And then you're going to cut out pattern piece number 5, which is our sleeve, and you're going to cut 2. Now that we have everything cut out, we can go ahead and get started. Okay, let's start with our front piece and our yoke. So piece number 7, you're going to go ahead and do 2 rows of basting stitches, which I have already done, and then you're going to pull so that we can create some gathers and fit our yoke onto this piece. You can pull and then see if your notches align. We're going to pin there first. Okay, once you have this pinned, you're going to go ahead to your sewing machine and you're going to stitch using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. Okay, once you have attached your yoke to your front, you're going to go ahead and make a stitching line 1 inch away from your dot on either side. So you should have a dot here where your V-neck is. You're going to make a stitching line 1 inch up and then 1 inch up on the other side, just so it doesn't stretch out while we attach our band. Then you're going to cut till you reach your dot, but don't go through your stitches. Now you're going to go ahead, set this aside, and grab your band. Now with right sides facing, you're going to stitch 5/8 of an inch, pivot at the dot, and then 5/8 of an inch in the other direction. Now once your band is sewn, we're going to go ahead and snip in the middle. Make sure you don't go through your stitching. I want you to press your seams open, and then I want you to press your neck band in half all the way around. Okay, once you have your band pressed in half, you can go ahead and clip off the little edges right here. And now we're going to pin it to our shirt. So before we do that, we need to attach our shoulders. So you're going to grab your front and you're going to grab your back. We're going to go ahead and stitch at the shoulders. So with right sides facing, go ahead and pin your shoulders together, matching your notches. Now go ahead and stitch across your shoulders using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and attach our neck band. So I'm working with the wrong side of my shirt looking up at me, and I'm going to put my band underneath. It's easier just for me to do it this way so I can see. And what you want to do is you want to align the center with the center seam of your band. And I like to pin there first. And then you're going to continue pinning around. I'm going to pin at my back, making sure to align those notches. And you may have to pull just a tad. Now that we we have it pinned all the way around, we can stitch using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. Okay, so I like to start at the V, right in that seam line, just so that I know I'm starting exactly in the center of the front. I put my needle down, and now we're going to stitch around using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. Okay, now here are a couple of tips to make sure that your V-neck is nice and straight. And really this goes for any neckband. First, make sure that you really do your stitching before you attach your band to your front bodice. Because if you don't strengthen that little area, that little V, when you attach your band to the bodice, it's gonna stretch and you want it to be dead center. The other thing is to make sure you pin evenly around, so that you stretch your band evenly all the way around versus doing it loosely in the front and then trying to stretch when you get over to the shoulders and to the back. And then after you've pinned it and you've sewn it, it might look a little wobbly because you have to press it into place. So don't be shy with your iron, really get in there and press your neckband into shape so that it lays flat. Now once you've done your neckband, you're gonna turn this over, and with right sides facing, you're gonna pin your side seams. Always start where your notches are. You're going to pin your other side seam the same way. Then you're going to head over to the sewing machine and go ahead and stitch down using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. Okay, once your side seams are sewn, we're going to go ahead and put our sleeve in. So with your sleeve, right sides facing, go ahead and pin along the underarm seam. You're going to take both your sleeves pinned and sew down 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. Then I want you to press your seam open. Okay, we're going to go ahead and set in our sleeve. I'm going to use the clipping method versus the 2 rows of easing stitching. If this was a woven fabric, I would do the 2 rows of easing stitch, but because it's a knit and it stretches a little bit, I'm just going to show you the clipping method. So I like to, with right sides facing, first pin my underarm seam to my side seam. And then I'll start working from the inside. You're first going to pin at your double notches, and then go ahead and pin your single notch. I always make a little notch at my shoulder, and then I match that up to my shoulder seam. You should also match your dots, so make sure that you always transfer your dots. And your other dot. And now what you're going to do is, when you see that you need to create a little bit of ease to fit that sleeve cap onto your sleeve or onto your arm's eye, you just make a couple of little snips, about 1/4 inch, and then that sort of opens up and allows for the fabric to stretch around that curve, and then I pin. The more pins you use, the easier this is to keep it all together. And then you're going to do the same thing on the other side. The more clips you create, the more it stretches. So depending on how much your fabric stretches, you may or may not need as many clips. Okay, now we're going to go ahead to the sewing machine and we're going to stitch all the way around using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. Okay, if your machine has a detachable base, go ahead and remove it. And you're going to stitch all the way around using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. Okay, once both of your sleeves are attached, all you have left to do is to finish the hem of your sleeve and the hem of your shirt, and you are all done. Well, that's all there is to it. I hope you've enjoyed this sew along, and please make sure and follow me on Instagram at MimiGStyle, and please use the hashtag MimiGPatterns. Until next time, peace.